Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back. All right, so let's talk about Light No Fire. It's been a little over 2 years now since the game made its splashy reveal at the Game Awards in December 2023. That initial announcement trailer gave us a little tease of Hello Games' next big ambitious project. And from what we saw at the time, the game looked far along enough that I'll say, at least personally, I thought it could be launching at some point in the next couple of years or something. And yet here we are 25 months later, and we have gotten mere morsels of additional information. In fact, they have not even yet said what year they are planning on launching this game. So what exactly is going on with Light No Fire, huh? Well, I think at least part of the answer lies in Hello Games' main communicator, Sean Murray. As you likely recall, in the lead up to the release of No Man's Sky, he said a lot of different things that set expectations which were ultimately not met when their space exploration game first released. Now, in the 9 years since, they have pumped out kind of an unbelievable number of entirely free updates, which have now cemented No Man's Sky as one of the best supported, long-lasting live service games on the market. Nevertheless, though, the launch was a bit of a disaster, much of which due to overselling and under-delivering, a mistake that I have to assume they are not looking to repeat again. Was that unnecessary? Was that necessary? So yes, it has been 2 years and we have not gotten any additional trailers, tweets, or even press releases from Hello Games about Light No Fire. But we have heard some news on the game here and there. Funny enough, most of this has come alongside updates for No Man's Sky. Now, why would that be the case? Well, because both games are running on the same engine and will have a lot of similar features and tech as a result. In fact, they have said as much themselves on a few occasions, stating that No Man's Sky updates are acting as a testing bed for things that they are working on in Light No Fire. In fact, in July of 2024, in the Worlds Part 1 update, Sean said,
6 months ago, we announced Light No Fire. It's this crazy, ambitious game, and we've been working on it for years, and we've learned so many things, and it feels like we're almost bringing this technology back from the future.
Along similar lines, just last January in a deep dive for the Worlds Part 2 update, he said,
we're extremely busy on Light No Fire. Each time we push our engine to new places, though, we have this urge to share it with the community, with No Man's Sky.
Or in other words, while working on Light No Fire, they've made a lot of advancements in their tech, and they are looking then to go back and put those into No Man's Sky. In fact, not too long ago, they explicitly highlighted one specific example.
And then on our other game, Light No Fire, you have these real oceans to navigate. We need boats and crews, and this tech is being developed for both games.
Now, these examples are the only things that they have explicitly highlighted as being shared across both games, but I'm pretty certain there are many others as well. So I kind of wanted to take a look at the past couple of years of No Man's Sky updates and see what of those things could be applicable and how that might look in Light No Fire. Before we jump into that though, just as a baseline, here's what we know thus far about Light No Fire. So it's going to be an open world fantasy multiplayer survival game, and the big pitch here is that the entire thing is set on one massive Earth-sized planet, a single space that will be shared by everyone. Officially, their pitch for this game is that Light No Fire is a game about adventure, building, survival, and exploration together. Set on a fantasy planet the size of Earth, it brings the depth of a role-playing game to the freedom of a survival sandbox. During the initial reveal at Gamescom 2023, a few things stood out, specifically when Sean Murray said that Light No Fire is a game that is more ambitious than No Man's Sky, even though it takes place on a single planet rather than an entire universe of planets. The intention here is that this space is going to have way more depth than what is seen on the billions of planets. Literally, there are billions of planets in No Man's Sky, and this is just one planet, but it's going to be very large and have more depth to it. At least that's what they're pitching. He referred to it as being a, quote, Earth-sized planet that is as varied as a universe with mile-high mountains from the top of which you're going to see rivers, canyons, oceans, and even entire continents. He also dubbed Light Light No Fire as the first real open world, something without boundaries, and from that it's safe to assume they're planning on no loading screens as you move across the world. They also said that we're going to let everyone play in it together, alluding to the shared world nature of the game, where you will see other people running around. Now, as of the game's announcement, it had been in development for 5 years, it was said, which now means the game has been in development for going on 7+ years at this point. Now, from the Steam page, we learn a few things. They talk about the multiplayer Earth. They say you're going to meet players from across the globe, build a life, explore and survive together, constructing persistent buildings and communities, or striking out alone to discover the world for others. It is a procedurally made Earth, a truly open world with no boundaries at a scale never attempted before, a massively varied and dense planet filled with immersive biomes, unique enemies, and valuable resources. It's also got that fantasy theming to it. Light No Fire presents you with this ancient Earth to uncover, one where you are not the hero, thick with lore, mystery, and a constant fight for survival, inspired by the adventure, charm, and imagination that we love from classical fantasy. And then finally, it is an unexplored Earth. Every mountain can be climbed, and below them will lie endless vistas, oceans, and continents perhaps no others have seen. You'll set sail across vast oceans and rivers, or ride wild beasts through fantastical landscapes, and even fly dragons in the sky. Now, beyond that, in the announcement trailer, we got some brief glimpses of various systems, mechanics, and features. The ones that stand out most clearly, there's resource gathering and base building. You've got melee and range combat. We've seen a few short clips of that. Also, magic seems incredibly likely. We do see a few characters with staffs. Besides them showcasing the flying mounts, we also see other forms of transportation, like with gliders, land mounts, and boats. We see a few different biome types. There's some underwater gameplay with characters swimming, various playable races, including not only humans, but other variety of animals like rabbits, fox, bear, frogs, and a few more. And then we also see different enemy types, including things like skeletons and massive crabs. As for the multiplayer, well, in the trailer alone, we see what look to be parties of at least 4, with at a few points as many as 10 different characters in frame at a time. Specifically in the scene where the group is walking up into this temple looking thing, there's a lot of characters there. We also know that they could potentially support up to 32 players in a single space. That is at least the current cap for the multiplayer locations in No Man's Sky. And we've had hints that the multiplayer could be at an even larger scale than this. On a news post discussing the game's reveal, it was said, "As a kid, we always loved the maps at the start of great fantasy books. Earthsea, Narnia, Middle-earth, Westeros, whole worlds, and this is their fantasy planet, a single planet that they're going to let everyone play on together to explore and adventure." Okay, so again, that is the baseline of the things that have sort of been explicitly stated or shown about Light No Fire. But now I want to take a look briefly at the past couple of years of No Man's Sky updates since Light No Fire was revealed, and see what could be applicable to both games, some of which they have explicitly said are shared across both, and some of them seem very likely. So first, let's start off with the Omega update. Here they introduce dreadnoughts, which are these pirate capital ships. So the whole idea in No Man's Sky is you go in, you engage with these, attacking key weak points, and then eventually boarding the ship and confronting the captain. Defeating these encounters let you then take control of the ship. Well, we know Light No Fire is going to have controlled ships that you'll be sailing across the oceans. We'll have boats that we can make. So it seems likely that also in the oceans, we might come across NPC factions of pirates out on the seas that we could then also attack, board, and commandeer their vessels. With the orbital update, they did an overhaul to space stations with procedurally generated interiors and exteriors. This allowed stations to be uniquely customized based on its system, race, and locale. Now, previously, the interior of space stations all looked pretty much identical no matter where you were in the universe, in the galaxy, but now they would be tailored, again, depending on those variety of systems, races, and locales of the station. Also, with this, they had some engine improvements that allowed for them to make these interiors larger and better looking. Now, the most obvious application that we could see of this system for Light No Fire would be these proc-gen cities and towns with unique appearances based on their biome location or the primary faction. So say you come across a city in the forest that's inhabited by the fox-like creatures. That could have its own distinct look compared to a city that was primarily inhabited by elves or gnomes or tree folk or whatever, and then further distinctions for each of the various biomes that are going to be in the planet of Light No Fire. That's certainly one possibility. Also, there were some guild system updates in No Man's Sky during the orbital update. No Man's Sky has an entire system of different guilds with their own quest lines, reputations, and rewards. Seems very likely Light No Fire Fire would have a similar guild system, these different factions that you could quest for and then raise your reputation and unlock rewards. That seems kind of like a no-brainer. All right, so next we've got the Worlds Part 1 update. Version 5.0 of No Man's Sky brought a total refresh to the game. As mentioned earlier, this was a direct result of technical improvements that they made during the development of Light No Fire. The game got some big improvements to its visuals, volumetric effects with things like rolling fog, rain, blizzards, and lava sparks, and better shadows as well. Also, better water and cloud quality. They added dynamic waves, a wind system that impacts everything in the world, as well as more planetary and creature variety on top of that. This was a pretty big update where the tech side of the improvements they've made to Light No Fire kind of made their way back into No Man's Sky. So you can take a look at these things and see the sort of visual quality that we are likely going to expect in Light No Fire. The Aquarius update brought fishing to the game with a variety of fish to collect. There are also fishing traps, messages in a bottle that you could fish up, new cooking recipes, fishing skiffs, rare rods, and diving suits. I mean, yeah, there'll be fishing in Light No Fire, but what a shocker, right? The Worlds Part 2 update came with another big round of visual and technical improvements. This brought a big lighting overhaul, the introduction of gas giants, more varied terrains, deeper oceans, more dynamic water, and better reflections, on top of new weather hazards and additional biomes. Once more, big visual improvements that they made through the development of Light No Fire made their way back into No Man's Sky. During the Relics update, they introduced an archaeology system where you would unearth these unique bones, assemble skeletons, and then put them on display in your own museums. Could see something along those lines as well in Light No Fire. The Beacon update came with overhauled settlements, which are essentially these planetary towns that you can manage. They also added a bunch of new management decisions, building upgrades, infestations, and new base parts. Could imagine a system of town management that players could engage with in Light No Fire. And then finally, most recently, we had the Voyagers update. This is where they added habitable multi-crew starships assembled from hundreds of ship modules. You are building your own spaceship here by piecing various modules together with medical base, sleeping quarters, war rooms, radar, teleporters. These are full interiors that you can walk around in from section to section as this ship flies through space. And it's, again, multi-crew, so it's not just you, but also friends can join you in your ship as well. And it was in the deep dive of this update where Sean Murray referenced the fact that you are going to be able to build your own boats in Light No Fire in using a similar mechanics where you're going to set up the different sections of the boat that have different functionality, and they're going to be multi-crew where you and other people can man these boats and pilot them together, probably sailing to different islands, looking for treasure, fighting factions of pirates, NPC pirates out on the sea, maybe some sea monsters as well, all sorts of possibilities. And again, this is one of the things that they directly reference being shared across both games. And those are kind of just some of the things that stood out to me going back through the past couple of years of updates for No Man's Sky about things that seemed likely applicable to Light No Fire. You know, one thing I do really hope with Light No Fire is that it feels like more than just a fantasy version of No Man's Sky. Even though they have been direct in saying that there's going to be a lot of shared DNA between these two games, if they can make them look and feel distinct enough is kind of my biggest hope. That's what I'm really wanting. Outside of that, I mean, this one massive seamless shared planet that everyone who plays Light No Fire is going to be inhabiting and sharing together sounds really interesting. And it's really the scale of things on a single planet that has my kind of brain going as to the different possibilities. And it just could be really interesting and fun. And I imagine they talk about mile-high mountains, and you can imagine different points of interest, cities, enemy camps, and strongholds that you could go within. But even more than that, imagine deep, sort of like a Lord of the Rings style, deep mine system with caverns and all these underground terrains and layers. I think the unknown and the potential for something like this is part of the big excitement. That on top of the fact that No Man's Sky has been getting continuous updates over the years and really established itself as a well-supported a live service game, has a dedicated fan base. I mean, there's definitely a lot of potential. The other big thing that I'm really keeping my fingers crossed when it comes to Light No Fire is improvements to combat, because it's really interesting exploring and going around the world of No Man's Sky, but engaging in its combat is probably one of its weakest points. So I'm really hopeful that with Light No Fire, they can really hone in on creating a satisfying gameplay combat feel and more variety as well. I mean, melee systems, magic systems, that whole fantasy twist definitely opens up the possibilities more so than just shooting your multi-tool and not feeling very impactful in the process. So fingers crossed. I think there's a lot of potential. We're looking at about 7 years of development. Again, when Light No Fire was announced, they said it was 5 years in development. It's been 2 years since then, so we're now 7 years deep. I have to imagine they're getting close to the finish line, and I figure 2026, I probably would have said the same thing about 2025, but I have to imagine now, pushing 7+ years of development, that we're going to be hearing more in 2026, and maybe getting a release date, although, I don't know. I'm not going to count on a 2026 release, but it would be nice. Either way, looking forward to hearing and seeing more. This game is certainly on my radar, and can't wait to actually get our hands on it and play it. That is all for today's video, a little bit of an update and more discussion about Light No Fire. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.